does your inner child still love a story? Wonderful. Because I have a few. According to ancient Sufi legend, there once lived a king in the Middle East. And this king was known to swing wildly each day, sometimes hour by hour, between great happiness and profound despondency. You see, when he was happy, the slightest change could bring him to grief and despair. And after many, many years of this, he grew tired of himself and of life. And he sought a way out. And so he beckoned to the castle a wise man, reputed to be very in touch with the essence of life. And the wise man came. And the king said, "Can you help me? Can you give me something that will bring me happiness and joy and serenity and harmony and abiding peace?" And the wise man said, "I think I can help you." Actually, he did say that, but he didn't say it like that. He said, "I think I can help you." The king said, "I will pay any price." The wise man said, "The cost for this gift is so great, your entire kingdom would not be sufficient payment. And so, I will offer to you as a gift, if you will honor it." And the king agreed. The wise man departed. A few weeks later, the wise man returned to the castle, came before the king, and handed him an ornately carved jade box. The king opened the box, and within he found a simple gold ring, inscribed with letters. It said, "This too will pass." The king said, "What is the meaning of this?" And the wise man instructed, "Wear this ring always. And each time, whenever something happens, no matter what it is, before you call it good or bad, touch the ring and repeat the inscription. This too shall pass. And in this way, you will always be at peace. This too will pass." What's the meaning of these words? At face value, we can easily see how those words would readily help us out in a bad situation. Like, be at peace. Be at peace because whatever's going on now, however yucky it feels, it's going to come to an end. It will end. So we can get that. But then the other side of the coin, what about those times that are really good? I mean, we are really happy. We're humming. This too shall pass. It's as if it's asking us not to be too happy because it won't last. Yuck! Yeah, do you like that? It doesn't work for me, I'll tell you. Maybe the deeper meaning of the story will become evident in the context of two other stories. And one of them, this next story is, if you were here last Sunday, you heard this. I'm going to share it in a little shorter form today. There was a There was a Zen master who lived in Japan in the 17th century, and he was highly reputed. People came from near and far for his spiritual counsel. And then it happened one day, the teenage daughter of his next-door neighbors became pregnant. Remember, this is Japanese society in the 17th century. The parents were mortified. Their entire family had been shamed, and they berated their daughter for hours, demanding to know who the father was. And finally, after half a day of this, she blurted out, it's the Zen master. The Zen master is the father. And the parents went screaming and cursing to his house, saying, our daughter confessed that you are the father. And the Zen master said, is that so? Now this scandal spread quickly throughout the countryside. And no one came to see the Zen master anymore. And yet, he remained composed and at peace always. And he took loving care of the child that had been deposited at his doorstep after birth. Well, a full year elapsed. And the daughter, I don't know what caused her to do this, but the daughter went to her parents and said, I must confess to you that the Zen master is not the father. It's the young man that works at the butcher shop. And so the parents returned to the master's home, heads bowed apologetically, and said, we are so sorry, we are so sorry. Our daughter has admitted to us that you are not the father. And we are here to take the child back. And the master looked at them and said, is that so? That's all he said. And he gently returned the child to them. There's another story, a more contemporary story. This too is about a wise man. There was a wise man who, I guess on this day, wisely entered the lottery. He bought a lottery ticket. And he won a fabulously expensive car. I mean, it was a beautiful car. I don't remember the model. Okay, but it was a great car. And picture your favorite car. It's like, that was the car. And all of his friends and family came over and said, isn't it wonderful? Isn't it? You are so lucky to have won this car. And he said, maybe. And he really enjoyed driving this car. For the next 2 weeks, he was driving all over town, and I mean, he loved it. And then one evening, he's on his way home, and he got broadsided by a drunken driver. And he was put into the hospital with multiple serious injuries. And his friends and family came to see him. And they said, isn't this awful? Isn't this horrible? And he said, maybe. And then soon thereafter, one night while he was still recuperating in the hospital, there was a nearby landslide. And his home abruptly fell into the sea. And his family and friends came back to the hospital the following day. And they said, aren't you fortunate that you were here in the hospital? And he said,
maybe.
A little test. Maybe. The wisest man in the room. So this wise man that said maybe, he consciously chose not to judge what happened in his life as good or bad. And did you hear me say that he really enjoyed driving that car around and he loved it? He did. There was joy in his life. There was love in his life. He wasn't living the life of a zombie. His emotions weren't dead. His heart was alive. And yet he didn't judge what happened as good or bad. He accepted, he embraced whatever came into his life, understanding that no human mind can come close to comprehending the purpose and place of whatever happens in the fabric of life, that we simply don't have the capacity to see the picture from the high enough vantage point, at least not with human sight, not with human comprehension alone. He understood that. And so by not judging what happened, he gave himself the freedom to enjoy whatever came into his life, to be with whatever came into his life. He was a wise and enlightened man. The king who said, "This too shall pass," he chose non-attachment. Non-attachment. And by choosing non-attachment, he was able to live life zealously at every moment, not worrying and fretting about what he might lose, what the future might bring, because who knows that? None of us knows. We can worry 6 days to Sunday about what's going to happen, what might happen, what could happen. It changes nothing, except how we move through this gift of life. And the Zen master who said, "Is that so?" He chose the path of non-resistance. He didn't resist the present moment. He didn't resist what happened in his life. He truly lived in the flow. His non-resistance took what some people could see as a really, really horrible situation, one where he lost his entire reputation. He lost the company of all of his students and friends. And he transformed what many would call a really bad rap into a gift of good. Because what happened? A child received loving care, great care, and probably tremendous energy for a full year. What a gift to that child. These three practices, non-judgment, non-attachment, non-resistance, are the keys to true freedom and realized enlightenment. Not attaching, not resisting, not judging, creates a space within us. It's an enormous space. It's a divine space. In that space, God resides. And in that space, you reside. That is the space of the present moment. It is not the future. It is not the past. It is what is happening now that we accept, embrace, and live in fully. Body, mind, and spirit. When we don't resist, we don't push away, we don't too quickly judge.